How's it going, everybody? I'm Jeff Slakey with Tracing the Fjord, and I'm up here at the North Mason Regional Fire Authority's beautiful new fire hall. It looks a lot different than the last time Bo here took me around when it was still just wooden sticks around this place. It's gorgeous here.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are super pleased. 21,000 square feet to be in this building. It's state-of-the-art, everything in here. Obviously, we're getting used to the space. It's completely different than when we were next door, but just gift from the community to be able to operate out of here. It's been fantastic.
North Mason Fire Chief Bo Bakken here, Emergency Prevention Specialist Abe Gardner as well. And we've talked over the years about the different needs and resource needs in our community. We're going to talk about some upcoming opportunities for folks to get resources. But for those who are unfamiliar with the North Mason Regional Fire Authority, let's kind of go over the area that you serve, how many people you serve, and the other types of things you guys do.
Well, so the North Mason Regional Fire Authority, if you go to Wana State Park down Highway 106, and if you go to the high school on Highway 3, everything north of that is us. So Tahuya Peninsula, Belfair proper, we're 132 square miles. So there's a lot of land territory. When you talk about serving a population, it's tough to zero in on that number because, wintertime, we're 22 to 25,000. Summertime, that explodes, can be anywhere near 45, 50,000 people as folks come into the lakes to recreate. And the other thing that we've seen as far as population, as it increases, is we're seeing a lot of folks from the Tacoma, Seattle area who now can work from home. I mean, It's just a different era post-pandemic. Whereas a lot of our places on the canal and the lakes used to be summertime or recreation, those are full-time residences now. So Our population has been growing and continues to grow.
And in the summertime, too, especially, it does put a strain on the resources here, not only on service calls, but when it comes to your position now, too, with emergency prevention, because a lot of people are out here recreating and at times may not be making the best choices when they're out here enjoying themselves. So what are some things that you've seen as you've come on board here, moving from the county level to this North Mason area?
Yeah, well, one of the programs that we started here, back in February when I jumped on board was the Resource Access Program. We're really excited about the program. It's been going really well, and really it's interacting with folks proactively, looking to navigate them to resources, doing everything we can to keep them in their homes, keep them safe, do what we can to keep them out of the 911 system. It's really supported our crews and as well as the folks here in the North Mason community.
Before we kind of talk about the resource fairs that are upcoming, what are some of the resources that have been gained by the opening of this building? I remember, Bo, that we talked about having an opportunity for folks to get possibly a medical exam here, like right at the entrance, as opposed to weeding their way all the way back here. This conference room is beautiful, and I know there were some other community spaces too, right?
Yeah, so with this particular building, one of the things that we're maybe even letting the cat out of the bag a little bit today is bringing on a physician's assistant and actually having, because one of the things is, speaking to Abe's position, the work that he's doing as well, is we looked at our call volume during the pandemic and then post, and it's gone up significantly, upwards of 22 to 25% overall volume. But when you look at the volume of what is truly life-threatening, cardiac conditions, heart attacks and whatnot, that volume hasn't gone up hardly at all. It's pretty stagnant with even what's happened during the pandemic. So then you want to take a look and go, well, wait a minute, if your volume is going up, what is causing that to happen? And I don't think it's a surprise to a lot of our viewers that it is social, behavioral health issues, substance abuse. This pandemic is having a wreck on a lot of folks and a lot of family units that are out there. And so as we look at it, and this is where this building is just a real gift, and the people that we're bringing on is a real gift in this PA program, is that, it doesn't make more sense to take more firefighters, more paramedics, because that's not what's driving the increased call volume. It is, again, we mentioned the social, the behavioral health, the substance use. Well, wait a minute. It's not the emergency room. It's not paramedics that are best set to address that. It is getting them to the resources that they need, having Abe work with them. And the other thing that we're seeing is that there's a lot of folks that are having difficulty accessing the medical system. So Jeff, for example, if you had strep throat and you weren't feeling that well and you called your primary doctor, he'd probably say, great, we can schedule in December, right?
Yeah.
I don't need you in December, I need you right now. And so what can happen is and then your condition gets worse, you don't get the help that you need. And in Mason County, one of the defaults for accessing the healthcare system is 911.
Yeah.
So we come out and just go, hey, is the emergency room and the 911 system, is that the best route? And so we're bringing on a PA. We can have people be looked at and be visited here. But just getting the right resources for the right conditions is what we're seeing coming out of this pandemic era.
I just like this connection here with you guys because, Bo, you and I have talked for years about substance abuse issues and problems around our community, and Abe, you have been a real driving force in your previous professions, and then now here, it's a kind of a nice, I like this is fun here. Let's talk about the resource fair.
Absolutely.
What's available to our different communities here in the North Mason area?
Yeah, well, so we've been meeting for the last few years, every other month for opioid stakeholder group meeting. And there's been a lot of incredible work coming out of that particular group. And kind of a subgroup that's been meeting over the last several months as kind of a spin-off to that group is we're talking about, what are some action items that we can do as partners, as stakeholders in the community. And so the idea came up, how do we increase service provision? How do we make access, how do we create access to services, and how do we encourage folks, kind of break down some of those barriers, make it a little easier for folks. So we came up with an idea. The goal is to be a traveling resource fair of sorts, to where we kind of hit certain corners of Mason County. We're starting up here next Wednesday, September 28th at Station 27, our Collins Lake Station. And we've got a list of different folks that are joining us. We've got over 30 different agencies that are going to be there with us. So if you're needing food, if you're needing housing, if you're needing support for substance use, mental health, transportation, resource for insurance, resource navigation for that. There's a whole list of folks that are going to be there with us, and as well as intensive case management. So if you don't really know where to start, we got folks that can get you started and kind of get you along the way.
What are some of the things that folks should bring with themselves or have on them to start the process and make sure it's as easy as possible?
I think they don't have to bring a lot with them. Really, just kind of a level of willingness.
Okay.
And even if they don't know where to start, that's one thing that I wanted to communicate to folks that, if there's a little bit of fear, or there might be a little bit of guilt, or there might be a little shame, that kind of thing, that please, know that this is a safe place to go.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's difficult to start those conversations. I'll be there to help folks out. They can come to me and say, hey, I don't know really where to go. I'll know pretty much everyone that's at a booth, and I can introduce them. So really, it's just come as you are. That's part of the goal, is to decrease as many barriers as possible. So show up, introduce yourself to me. I can bring you around, or you can advocate for yourself. That's totally fine as well.
What is it about these types of resource fairs that just help the community and help the way the fire authority can kind of connect and then better react in the future?
So building off what Abe was talking about, where I get excited is the fact that, and I go on my soapbox a little bit about this, but we always kind of sit there and say, well, we're just Little Mason County. There's just not a lot here. He just referenced there's 31 different agencies. But one of the places that we struggle is, how do you take the resources and the offerings that those agencies have and get it out to 1,000 square miles, which is Mason County? The expectation a lot of times is folks come in and see these resources. That can be difficult. A lot of the emphasis is put on to our urban cores. So when we talk about Belfair proper or Shelton proper, there's some decent outreach there. But that's not all of Mason County. Mm-hmm. Collins Lake, Tahuya, Matlock, Lilywop, and whatnot. There's a lot of folks that are needing those resources. And so to have this subgroup come up with the idea and to allow us, the fire authority, to be a partner to sit there and say, hey, how can we bring these resources, which again, a plethora of in Mason County, how do we get those out to folks that truly need them? Watching that, it might only be 2 hours, but at least a first salvo, watching that take place, we're excited by that. What we feel will happen and what we hope will happen is there's less of a dependence on the 911 system, and more importantly, is that people that are in need get the appropriate level of care. It's not the emergency room. It's not getting into a life-threatening scenario. If it's mental health assistance they need, it's there. It's available. If it's rental assistance, it's income assistance, if it's social behavioral health assistance, let's get them the right level of care that they need.
Where and when again is this? And is there going to be the opportunity to someone to pull you off to the side in a private setting as well? Maybe
Absolutely.
Not want to have that conversation out in public.
Absolutely. So next Wednesday, September 28th, from 2 to 4 at our Collins Lake Station, which is Station 27, and 100%. I'll be wearing my Class Bs. Gardner's right here, so seek me out, and also know that I've been in the position that I've needed these resources. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I've been a person that's been a consumer of these types of resources, and I've had to navigate the system. And it can be difficult when you're calling phone trees or when you're trying to make appointments, or you don't know where to start. Yeah. And so I really want to implore those that are in need of these resources to reach out. I'm there to help, or family members. Sometimes the individual, it's difficult for them to reach out, so sometimes it's easier for a family member. I'm there for those conversations as well. And the other thing that I just want to encourage folks that are able to listen to this is that you may not be the one that needs resources, but you may know somebody that needs resources. So I just encourage folks, maybe there's that one person, whether it be a neighbor, family member, loved one, or somebody in the community that they see downtown or they see driving down the road or see at the library. They're like, maybe I'll make a connection and I'll let them know, hey, I've heard about this particular event, and I'd really encourage you to go and get them that information. So 100% I'm there to support folks and get them connected to the resource they may need.
We're here at the North Mason Regional Fire Authority in Belfair, the beautiful new facility, and thanks to the voters of the North Mason area for providing this, and it's going to have a lot of long-term impact. Fire Chief Bo Bach and Emergency Prevention Specialist Abe Gardner here, and we'll put the links and locations to this upcoming resource fair as all of the other ones as they come down. Thanks, guys. Good to see you.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate the opportunity.
Appreciate it.